Dear friends, welcome to the program Catholic Faith Under Attack, a program sponsored by the Media Catholica of the Archdiocese of Thrissur. Today, I would like to address a question that is being very much active and alive today. The question is Jesus Christ, whom the Christians worship, is a historical person? Was there a human being who lived in Palestine and was killed, as it is said, by Pontius Pilate? Is there any secular document about the existence of such a historical person? Of course, there are documents, and it's biblical documents. The 4 Gospels and the 21 epistles, all the books, etc. But apart from these testimonies of the faithful, the disciples of Jesus, is there any document of contemporary historians, be the Jews or Romans, that witness to the truth, that confess the truth, that this Jesus was a historical person? And many people consider there is not. And if there is, it is a kind of interpolated document. Recently, I heard a talk telling the whole story of Jesus reported in the book of Josephus, the Jewish antiquities. All that deals with Christ is interpolated by the Catholics or by the Christians. Now, we have to ask the first question. If there was no historical person, as the Christians believe, a person who was called Jesus and who was had a title Christ, how did this Christianity come to life? And how did the people find such a story? I think it is very stupid to project a story of a leader, of a founder, in the way the Christians do about Jesus Christ. Paul, an apostle who claims to be an apostle, who was converted from Judaism to Christianity, said, I know Jesus only him crucified. He speaks only about the crucified Christ. And who would invent such a story? If you want to propagate a religion, if you want to propagate a movement, who would find such a stupid leader who at the end cries in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? Who is this? And the night before his death, the Bible tells, he was crying, Abba, you can do everything. If possible, take this cup away from me. So what kind of a leader is he? Who would invent such a stories to propagate, to promote a leader? It would be rather strange. Now, why is it that there is no historical document as it is suggested? One thing we have to keep in mind. Jesus did not fight any war. Jesus did not establish any empire. Like Alexander, the promoter of the Hellenism, or Julius Caesar, or any such world leaders. No. He was known in an unknown village. He lived like a carpenter. And at the end, he was condemned as a criminal, both by the religious and the political court. The Jews found him as a blasphemer, a false prophet. That's why he was condemned to death. And the political authority, the colonial power Rome, they found him as a revolutionary. We know Palestine was a colony of the Romans from 63 BC onwards. And by the time we say that the Christian era starts, there were so many revolutionaries, many people. In fact, the Bible tells the 2 criminals who were condemned and crucified with Jesus were 2 criminals, freedom fighters. The one who was put on trial for popular trial together with Jesus was Barabbas, another revolutionary. So for the Romans, Jesus was a revolutionary. That's what the cross is. Jesus Christ, Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews, the one who claimed to be a king. So this movement started by a revolutionary is a threat to the Roman Empire. That's why in the time of Nero, the persecution became very strong. So in this context, it is quite understandable that neither the Jews nor the Romans wanted to perpetuate the memory of this contempt criminal or this blasphemer. So no wonder there is no document. But before you say there is no document, you have to open your eyes to some of the documents I am presenting here now. I have a few historical documents copied. The first is from the Annals of Rome, written by Tacitus, a Roman historian. Tacitus lived between 56 and 118 AD. In chapter 14, speaking about the burning of Rome, Tacitus has this to say: neither human resources nor imperial munificence nor appeasement of the gods eliminated sinister suspicion that the fire had been instigated. He is speaking about the fire in Rome, that Nero had initiated this fire. To appease this rumor, Nero fabricated scapegoats and punished with every refinement the notoriously depraved Christians, as they are popularly called, not the qualification, the notoriously depraved Christians. Their originator, Christ, had been executed in Tiberius' reign by the governor of Judea, Pontius Pilate. So we know who this person is. The originator, Christ, had been executed in Tiberius' reign by the governor of Judea, Pontius Pilate. That's a clearly historical document that you cannot deny. The second, Suetonius, another Roman historian who lived between 70 and 135 AD. He has a book, 12 Caesars, written in 120. In chapter 5, speaks about Claudius. He deals with the event in AD 50. Because the Jews at Rome caused continuous disturbance at the instigation of Chrestus, he expelled them from city. Who is this Chrestus? He misunderstood Christus as Chrestus, because there had been quarrels between Jews and Christians, and this became a problem, and all the Jews were expelled. That's why Aquila and Priscilla was among them who were banished. One thing, in 50 there were Christians and they were speaking about Christ. The third, Pliny the Younger, a proconsul of Bithynia in Asia Minor between 112 and 113. In his letter to Trajan, the emperor, he speaks about the Christians who chant verses to Christ as to a god. So already in 100 Asia Minor, the people were believing Jesus Christ and worshipping him. Lucian of Samosata wrote a mocking life of a convert to and then apostate from Christianity, the passing of Peregrinus. The Christians are said to be enamored of Peregrinus, that they revered him as God. So Peregrinus is a founder. But next, after the other, to be sure, whom they still worship, the man who was crucified in Palestine, because he introduced this new cult into the world. A person who was crucified under Pontius Pilate. Who was he? So these are the Roman historians speaking about. So you cannot deny that very existence of Jesus. Now the Roman historian Flavius Josephus, he's not a Roman, he made a Roman. He was a Jewish zealot who was a leader, captain of an army. When Rome attacked, he changed company and joined the Romans, and then he wrote an apology for the history of the Jewish antiquities, another book, Jewish War. In the Jewish antiquities, he speaks about a person, James, who was condemned and accused of heresy, and then this James is presented as next after and brought before them the brother of Jesus, who was called Christ, whose name was James. So James is presented as the brother of Jesus, who is called Christ. And it's more clear in book 18, chapter 3, verse 3 of the Jewish Antiquities. Now, there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew over to him both many of the Jews and many of the Gentiles. And when Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men amongst us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him. So these are the documents. What would you say? You can deny, you can close your eyes and say there is no historical document. That's only presenting your ignorance, so to say. So there is no doubt You cannot question the very existence or historical existence of this person called Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus Christ. But who is he? What is nature? Why do we believe in Jesus? That we'll have to explain later in detail. So if you have any questions, you can turn to us. We will be giving answer to. So one thing remains clear, that there was a person called Jesus. The title was Christ. And he lived in Galilee, in Nazareth. He was a carpenter. And he started preaching at the age of 30 also. And his preaching and his dealings caused much confusion among the Jews. The leaders found him as breaking the laws and as a blasphemer because he claimed equality with God. And he is considered as a false prophet, and he was condemned to death. Since they did not have the authority to execute a person, they handed him over to Pilate, the Roman governor, with another accusation. The Roman governor or the procurator put him on trial and found him guilty of sedition because he claimed to be king. That's what he wrote as the judgment. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. Jesus Nazarenus Rex Judaeorum. That's what you see on the title. So these are the facts that you cannot deny. But explaining the person, what he did, what he is giving, what is he now, these all things has to be discussed in detail later. But one thing remains, Jesus of Nazareth was a historical person, historically established by the historical documents. Thank you for listening. God bless you all. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.